Case study of Bernard family, world's richest family business, LVMH. Bernard Arnault might be the most successful person in the world of luxury goods. Arnault, the 72-year-old CEO of the French luxury conglomerate LVMH Moët Hennessy, Louis Vuitton, has built his fortune over almost 4 decades. He now owns some of the most well-known brands in fashion, jewelry, and alcohol, such as Louis Vuitton, Tag Heuer, and Dom Perignon. Along the way, Arnault has brought 4 of his 5 adult children into the business. This has helped him build the world's 3rd largest fortune, which is run by his family. Welcome to Money Magnates. In today's video, we will tell you how Arnault got his start and become one of the richest person in the world. But before we start the video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell icon for more updates. Arnault had an unusual professional start for a CEO in the fashion industry. He began as an engineer and property developer in his family's civil engineering company in the industrial north of France. By 1984, he wanted to do more than just build things, and he started a series of bold and ruthless moves to take over a business that he could grow on a global scale. To do this, he bought Boussac, a well-known but bankrupt French conglomerate, so he could take one of its businesses, the House of Dior, which he had wanted for years. After selling most of the other assets, he put the money back in his next luxury targets, Moët Hennessy and Louis Vuitton, 2 famous French companies that merged into LVMH in 1987. The next thing Arnault did was a power play that made him well-known all over Europe. Once he got into LVMH, he took advantage of the constant fighting between the 2 CEOs to get a controlling interest. He then fired the 2 CEOs who were fighting with each other. After winning one of the toughest battles in French fashion, he became chair CEO and the majority owner of LVMH, positions he still holds as of 2022. Over the next 30 years, he combined the assets of the now defunct Boussac company, which included Dior, with the brands of the LVMH company and dozens of companies he bought to make the world's most powerful luxury conglomerate, with sales of 44.6 billion euros or $51 billion by 2020. In 1949, Bernard Arnault was born in the industrial city of Roubaix in the north of France. His father, a well-known manufacturer, owned Ferret Savinel, a civil engineering and real estate company. Arnault's mother had a fascination for Dior, so she made sure that her son learned classical piano. Years later, Arnault made Christian Dior, the crown jewel of haute couture, and that had fascinated his mother, the center of his global luxury group. In his first job after college, Arnault showed the bravery and business smarts that would make him famous in the future. For example, he convinced his father to sell the company's construction business and invest more in real estate. By 1976, Arnault was years ahead of the competition and leading the way into a new, highly profitable area of real estate. Building timeshare properties, Arnault took over his father's job as CEO in 1977 and as chairman in 1978. At the age of 29, he was in charge of the whole family business. When a socialist party that wanted to tax the rich came to power in France in 1981, Arnault moved his family to the United States, where he spent 3 years building up Ferret Real Savinel's estate business. As he figured out how to do business in the competitive U.S. market, he had goals that went far beyond construction and real estate. He started looking for a business he could grow, ideally a French business with international reach. When Arnault went back to France in 1984, he took the first steps on his legendary path to becoming the head of the biggest luxury group in the world. During these early years, he also started to get both devoted fans and loud critics. People who liked him thought he was a visionary businessman who gave French business a boost. Critics called him the Wolf in Cashmere because he brought Anglo-Saxon ruthlessness to the polite world of French business in the 1980s. They said he was just a corporate raider tearing down centuries of tradition. In 1984, Arnault made his first move. At the time, the French government was giving money to any business that could save Boussac, a famous but failing textile and retail empire that included several failing businesses, including the House of Dior, which Arnault had wanted for years. With $15 million from his family and $65 million from the investment firm Lazard Frères, Arnault started a holding company called Agache Financier and bought the bankrupt Boussac just to get Dior. Arnault was known as a force to be reckoned with in French business because of how well and ruthlessly he turned around Boussac. For example, to focus on his haute couture prize and Born March department store, which he knew he could grow, he sold off most of the other businesses and fired 9,000 workers to make the company financially stable. When government officials said that he had promised to keep jobs and assets, Arnault said that his only promise was to make the company profitable. People called him Terminator because he fired so many people, but they also praised him for jumping from his family's $15 million a year business to a company 20 times as big. After hiring Italian designer Gianfranco Ferrer to replace Marc Bohan as artistic director, Arnault ruffled some French feathers again in 1996 when he put brash British designer John Galliano in charge of Dior. Arnault told those who didn't like him that talent has no country, to protect the brand image of quality and exclusivity over quantity and accessibility, which was another thing Arnault thought was important to the Dior cachet. He worked with his new team to cut the number of Dior licensees and franchise boutiques in half, from 280 in 1989 to less than 150 by 1992. After securing the House of Dior as the cornerstone of its future empire, Arnault started a strategic acquisition program to buy up exclusive brands that met his criteria of only the best. These included the fashion houses of French designer Christian Lacroix and leather goods designer Celine, as well as the fashion and fragrance lines of Dior and Givenchy. As he had done at Dior, he canceled licensing deals that he thought were bad for the brand. This was a strategy that Arnault used over the next 30 years when he bought dozens of luxury brands. In 1987, Arnault bought Moët Hennessy and Louis Vuitton, two famous French companies that had just joined together to form LVMH. He did this with a $500 million he got from selling Bozak businesses. People often say that what Arnault did next was his most well-known and successful power move. Arnault first invested in LVMH at the request of Henri Racamier, the CEO of Louis Vuitton. Racamier wanted Arnault's help to get ahead of Alain Chevalier, the CEO of the much bigger Moët Hennessy. Racamier and Chevalier were always fighting and going to court since the merger, which gave Arnault the chance he needed. By the time Racamier found out that his friend has his own goals, Arnault had already enlisted the help of Lazard Frères, the UK liquor giant Guinness, and both the Moët Chandon and Hennessy families to help him get 45% of LVMH. Once Arnault got rid of Racamier, he got rid of all the top Vuitton executives and started putting together his LVMH conglomerate into what he called a supermarket for luxury goods. In the 1990s, he went on a shopping spree to buy luxury brands in everything from fashion, watches, Tag Heuer, and cosmetics, Sephora, to wine and spirits. He also grew LVMH beyond Europe and North America to Asia, South America, and Australia. As Arnault built LVMH into the world's largest luxury conglomerate, he hired new designers for star brands that speak to the ages, but feel intensely modern, like Celine, Kenzo, Guerlain, and Givenchy, as well as Loewe, Thomas Pink, Fendi, and DKNY. Within a year, Arnault moved Galliano from Givenchy to Christian Dior to replace Gianfranco Ferrer, an Italian designer who had been in charge of Dior's design since the late 1980s. Galliano was the first British designer in French haute couture. Arnault also hired Alexander McQueen, a 27-year-old British designer, to work at Givenchy, and Marc Jacobs to work at Louis Vuitton, where he told the American designer to go up against LVMH's competitors Prada and Gucci. Even though these designers eventually left LVMH, they did what Arnault wanted them to do. They got people interested in his traditional fashion houses at the start of the 21st century. Since Arnault's attempt to take over LVMH in 1989 made him famous all over Europe, people in the industry have said that his success is a very competitive field due to the fact that he understands both the creative and financial sides of running a luxury business. As Arnault built LVMH into a luxury empire, he proved to be an expert at hiring designers for star brands that speak to the ages but feel intensely modern. But because his model says that the counterbalance to creativity must be commerce, he never hesitated to put creative executives who did not produce in their place or fire them outright. A person who works in the industry said that Arnault's methods are not unusual in the M&A game, but they are unusual in this industry. He buys brands the Wall Street way. With his unusual mix of financial and creative skills, Arnault was able to combine the assets of a bankrupt company with LVMH and a number of acquired brands to create the world's most powerful luxury conglomerate, with sales to 44.6 billion euros or around $51 billion by 2020. And that is it for today, guys. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to get the latest updates about the freshest and interesting content that we keep in post.